Our today's topic is connective tissues and its types. Connective tissue is the most abundant and widely distributed tissue. It provides structural framework and gives support to different tissues forming organs. It prevents the organs from getting displaced by body movements. The components of the connective tissue are intracellular substance is known as the matrix, connective tissue cells and fibers. Connective tissue is classified into 4 types: proper connective tissue, supportive connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and fluid connective tissue. Proper connective tissue, which include areolar and adipose tissue. Supportive connective tissue, which includes cartilage and bone. Dense connective tissue, which includes tendons and ligaments. Fluid connective tissue, which includes blood and lymph. Now let's see about proper connective tissue. First one, areolar connective tissue. Areolar connective tissue is a loose connective tissue. They help in holding the organs in place and attach the epithelial tissues to other underlying tissues. It acts as a reservoir of water and salts for surrounding tissues. It has 3 different types of cells. These cells are fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells. Fibroblasts are large irregular cells. Fibroblast secretes proteins called collagen and elastin. Collagen fibers, they provide tensile strength, and elastin fibers provides elasticity. Collagen protein is white. That's why these are also known as white fibers. Elastin fibers are yellow in color. So these are also known as yellow fibers. The second type of cell are known as macrophages. Macrophages are large phagocytic cells. That means these are the cells which are engulf the foreign particles. And third category of cells known as mast cells. Mast cells are large and slightly oval in shape, and they secrete 3 important substances. One is histamine, which is secreted as or during allergic reactions. So whenever an allergens enter our body, it stimulates the secretion of histamine. The second substance which is secreted by mast cells is heparin. Heparin is anticoagulant, which is present in our blood. It helps to clotting of blood. And third substance is serotonin. Serotonin is stored in mast cells. Serotonin has various functions, like it can be a neurotransmitter also. So these are the 3 substances which are secreted by mast cells. It joins skin to muscles, fills space inside organs, and is found around muscles, blood vessels and nerves. It helps in repair of tissues. Now let's see about adipose tissue. Adipose tissue is commonly known as fatty tissue. The cells of this tissue store fats and excess nutrients which are not utilized immediately, or converted to fats and are stored in tissues. While fasting, these cells maintain life by producing and supplying energy as fuel. Adipose tissues are also found in subcutaneous tissue surrounding the kidneys, eyeball, heart, etc. Adipose tissue is called White fat or white adipose tissue. The adipose tissue which contained abundant mitochondria is called brown fat or brown adipose tissue. White fat stores nutrients, whereas brown fat is used to heat the bloodstream to warm the body. Now, let's see about supportive connective tissue. The supporting or skeletal connective tissues forms the endoskeleton of the vertebrate body, which protect various organs and help in locomotion. The supportive tissues include cartilage and bone. Cartilage is an important structural component of the body. It is a fine tissue but is softer and much more flexible than bone. Cartilage is made up of specialized cells called chondrocytes. These chondrocytes produce large amounts of extracellular matrix composed of collagen fibers and elastin fibers. These cells are present in fluid filled spaces known as lacunae. There are no blood vessels in cartilage to supply the chondrocytes with nutrients. Due to the lack of blood vessels, cartilage grows and repair more slowly than others. Cartilage is present in the tip of the nose, external ear, trachea and larynx. It provides support and flexibility to the body parts. Now let's see about bone. Bone is a connective tissue that has a large amount of two different types of matrix materials. The organic matrix is materially similar to other connective tissues, including some amount of collagen and elastic fibers. This gives strength and flexibility to the tissue. The inorganic matrix consists of mineral salts, mostly calcium, that give the tissue hardness. There are three types of cells in bone: osteoblast, osteocytes, and osteoclast. Osteoblasts are active in making bone for growth and remodeling. Osteocytes, which maintain the bone. Osteoclasts are active in breaking down bone for bone remodeling. Bone matrix composed of a protein called ossin. It forms thin plates called lamellae. In the lamellae, minute bone cells, the osteocytes, are present. An osteocyte is surrounded by a space called lacuna. The lacunae lead into a fine channels called canaliculi. With the help of canaliculi, one osteocyte is in contact with another osteocyte. The hollow cavities filled with bone marrow. There are two types of bone marrow. Red bone marrow produces red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, and platelets. Yellow bone marrow is yellow in color and contains much fatty tissue, produces blood corpuscles in emergency. Now, let's see about dense connective tissue. It is a fibrous connective tissue densely packed with fibers and fibroblasts. It is the principal component of tendons and ligaments. Tendons, they are cord-like strong structures that join skeletal muscles to bones. Tendons have great strength and limited flexibility. Ligaments are highly elastic structures and have great strength which connect bones to bone. They contain very little matrix. Now let's see about fluid connective tissue. The blood and the lymph are the fluid connective tissues which link different parts of the body. The cells of the connective tissue are loosely spaced. Now let's talk about blood. Blood contains corpuscles which are red blood cells means erythrocytes, white blood cells means leukocytes and platelets. In this fluid connective tissue, blood cells move in a fluid matrix called plasma. The plasma contains inorganic salts and organic substances. It is a main circulating fluid that helps in the transport of nutrients and other useful substances. Red blood corpuscles, erythrocytes, are oval shaped, circular, biconcave disc-like cells and lack nucleus when mature. They contain a respiratory pigment called hemoglobin, which is involved in the transport of oxygen to tissues. White blood corpuscles, leukocytes, are larger in size, contain distinct nucleus and are colorless. They are capable of amoeboid movement and play an important role in body's defense mechanism. They engulf or destroy foreign bodies. WBC are of two types, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes have irregular shaped nuclei and cytoplasmic granules. They include the neutrophils, basophils, and eosinophils. Agranulocytes lack cytoplasmic granules and include the lymphocytes and monocytes. Platelets or thrombocytes are small, colorless cell fragments in our blood that form clots and stop or prevent bleeding. Platelets are made in our bone marrow, the sponge-like tissue inside our bones. Next one, lymph. Lymph is a colorless fluid filtered out of the blood capillaries. It consists of plasma and white blood cells. It mainly helps in the exchange of materials between blood and tissue fluids. That's all about connective tissues. The rest of this lesson will be continued in the next session. Students, I hope you all have understood. Thank you, students.